Okay, great. All right, so let me share my screen. I hope you can able to see my screen. So after long back, we are going to resume our session, right? So I hope you guys could remember that IP section we have discussed in the previous session. I believe. Could you remember that?
Yes, Karthik.
All right. Okay. So, okay, let me give quick brush up over here. Uh, so the first topic which we are discussing about VPC, let me open the presentation. So you guys could able to recapture. If you are not able to recapture, please look at the previous session video. So it may help you out. All right. So now we are discussing about the first architecture. I mean, the first topic. So we are talking about that VPC. So when I say VPC, it's nothing but virtual private network. First, you need to create your own data center. So when you are creating that own data center to be ensure IP section, it's quite important. So the IP section, it has two category we have discussed over here. So one which it is IP v4 and IPv6. Under the IPv4, we are having 5 types of classes, and each classes it has the range, right? It has the range for each classes. I mean, if I go for class A, the IP range would be 16777.214, and when you go for class B 65534, and class C 254, this is your total range. And for we have take it as an example. I mean, 3 stack coder we have taken. So IBM, if they want to spin up 1 lakh machines, so I can choose class C. And for Infosys, they want to spin up 40,000, they can choose class B. And tech system, they want to spin up, they can go for class C. So that is what we have discussed. And when I'm applying -2, it's nothing but network ID and broadcast ID. So this is default from the total range. You need to do -2. All right. So I hope everyone, we are in same page. I think so. So if you do have any queries, you can ask me, or else you just look into that previous session video, so you can able to capture all the stuffs.
Hi, Karthik.
Hi.
You're telling that one should get that single IP. You should pay 20K. Is it difference? It will be different. Will I choose the class A, class B, class C?
Of course, that's what see, when I say 20,000, it's an approximate. It depends. Okay,
Okay.
if I go for class A, I think so it is 4 or 5,000, and that would be quite less. I think so 3,000 or 2,500 also you can able to buy, but you can see the range. Only 254 IP you will get, but when I go for class A, you will get some crores of IP, right?
Yes, yes.
So that's the reason the pricing dashboard will be differ based on the class.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. So now let's try to build the data center using by this any one of the class. So when you are trying to building that infrastructure, these are the default components when we are trying to build the data center. So you just come back to this architecture. Here we have discussed all this architecture. Fine. So now let's try to build your data center. So first I need to create one VPC. Okay, so when I say VPC, it's nothing but it's a kind of your identification, or I would say your private place in our cloud. Let's see. So VPC, which it is nothing but IBM can create VPC, Infosys can create one VPC, that is their own cloud. Inside of the cloud, what are the components if they need, they could able to attach. So first I can choose the region. Let's try to create at Singapore. At Singapore region, let's try to create VPC. And right. So instead of this VPC, we can deploy a server. When you are deploying the server, to be ensure, I need to choose zone. Instead of zone, I can call it a subnet. So what is subnet? Subnet is nothing but subdividing the network. Let's say subnet 1 and subnet 2 or subnet 3. You can create multiple subnet. You can create multiple subnet over here. I mean, see, it is your data center. It's your data center, right? These are the zone. And top of this zone, I can create subnet 1 and subnet 2 and subnet 3. All these subnet, I'm just going to keep it in one virtual private cloud. Make sense? Subdividing the network top of the zone, that is called subnet, right? So, and top of the subnet, you can create or you can spin up your server based on your IP range. I can spin up, your server. So let you come back here. Let's just go back to architecture. Now, these are your subnet. Top of the subnet, we could able to, spin up the server. I mean, I'm just going to deploy the virtual machine over here. Let's say this is our virtual machine. I mean, web server or application server. So this server, I can deploy it on top of virtual machine 1 and I'm sorry, top of subnet 1 and subnet 2, subnet 3. So we do have, 3 subnet and 3 differ subnet. It does, multiple virtual machine. So your data center, we decided to build at Singapore region, and user, they are sitting at Bangalore. Let you consider they are sitting at, Bangalore itself. All right, so here, let's say, yeah. So all the users, they are sitting at, Bangalore location. Let you consider around 200 users they are sitting. So these 200 users, if they want to access the virtual machine, we need to make the network, connectivity, right? So obviously we do have, you might heard about router, right? All the on-floor users, they do have router. When you are, when we are using this router, it's going to be act as a, gateway between public network into private network. So here we do have the router device. All the user has to be connected with the router device. This is generic architecture. In at on-prem, you can see all the user, they used to connect with the switch it is connected with router. So what is the use case of router? So the user always should be in private network. That's mandatory. They should be in private network. They should not be in public network. And the data center also should be in private network. All the classes, it has public network as well private network. If you go for class A, it has private IP. Class B, class C also it has private IP. You can see that private IP of class C, private IP of class B and C. So these are private IP of class A and class B and class C. You can see that this is the one, right? So let me paste over here so you can track private IP of class C, class B and class C. 0 to 26 in mid of, if it is started 10 dot series, that would be private IP of class A. If it is started 192 to 128 to 191, if it is started 172, that would be private IP of class B. And 192 could be considered private IP of class C. So when you are building the data center, it should be within this IP. You can choose 10 series or from the class A, or 172 from the class B, and 192 from class C. You can choose any one. So I can choose it over here. Let's say I'm just going to choose class A private IP, class A, private IP over here. I mean 10 series. We are choosing 10 series. Makes sense, right? So the data center obviously should be in private network, and your floor user should be in private network. How can we able to access the virtual machine if it is in private network? See, if it is in same location, I mean, if it is in same network, yes, we could able to access locally, but it is in different location. We can't, right? So in this case, we can assign one public IP for the router. Let's say here we do have public IP. So how we are assigning one public IP for the floor gateway, same we need to create one more gateway for your data center. So I can create the gateway, which it is, we can call it as IGW, Internet Gateway for data center. We do have. So for this internet gateway, we are calling as a public API, I mean application programming interface. So by default, internet gateway, it's gonna be connecting with your public network. So our router, it does public, and gateway also it does public. So public to public, we could able to reach. Now, once again, the public traffic, we need to do the routing into private network, right? So here I can configure one router with your data center, which it is called route table. So when we are calling route table, it's nothing but router. The naming convention is route table. So this route table, it's going to do the routing from the public network into private network, and it will redirect the traffic into multiple subnet. But see, let you consider, if I do have, three or multiple subnet, I need to create, the rules under the route table. I need to create multiple rules for subnet. I need to do the routing for subnet 2. I need to do the routing. So we need to create multiple rules. It may looks like measure. So we don't want to create multiple rules under the route table itself. In mid-off, we do have the components which it is called subnet association. So subnet association, which it is association, which it is nothing but collection of your subnet. All the subnet we just connect with your, subnet association. So once if you connected this subnet association, we can add under the route table. So once if you added, now you can see the traffic, how does it is going to be flow. So the users, if they want to access this virtual machine, traffic will goes to their gateway. Their gateway will redirect to our data center gateway. Then the data center gateway will pass the packet into the route table. Route table is going to do the routing from public network into private, and it's gonna be routing the traffic into subnet association, and the subnet association will pass the traffic into respective subnet, and where we have deployed the virtual machine, we could able to retrieve the data from the target virtual machine. So it is basic architecture. When you are building the data center on AWS, these are the components which we require to build. Make sense?
Yes, Karthik.
Right? So the same architecture you can see. If anybody want to ping your virtual machine, so the traffic, if I'm sitting at flow, the traffic will goes to data center gateway. Data center gateway will pass into route table. Route table having the subnet association. Subnet association having multiple subnet. You can able to reach your virtual machine. Any questions? Did you understand the architecture? Did you understand the architecture, or do you want me to repeat? What about you guys? Yeah.
Understand. Clear, cut, clear, cut.
Oh, clear. Rashagar, yes.
Yes, clear. Cut.
Okay, great. Fine. So this is, basic architecture to build our data center. Now, let's try to do practically. All right, so let's try to do practically, and we could understand. Fine. But when we are creating that, data center in a region, maximum we can able to create 5 VPC. More than 5 VPC, we cannot able to create. Sorry, 6 VPC. More than 6 VPC, I mean more than 6 data center, you cannot able to create in a region. So
I think you're not audible.
I'm sorry.
Your voice is breaking.
Your voice is breaking, right?
Oh, now is it fine?
Yeah, now it is.
Now it's better.
Okay, might be network fluctuation. All right. So what I was telling in the sense, in your region, I mean, in the particular region, maximum you can able to create 6 data center. More than 6 we can't. You have to go with, different region, right? So for building this data center, we required IP. So I just prepared for practice purpose, I just prepared IP cheat sheet. Let me share. Let me open this. See here. So I just prepared the IP sections over here. So if I'm using 10 dot, which it is nothing but class A of private IP, and you can see 172 class B private IP and the private IP of class C. But you can see that 10.0.0.0 here I have used to /16. Here I have selected, /24. Here you can see /20. You know the difference? You know the difference? What is this? Okay, so let me tell you that. See, basically, when you are okay, when you are building the data center, 4 IDs are very important. Let me come back. So here you can see 4 IDs are very important. One which it is network ID, network ID. Network ID, it's nothing but identification of, VPC. Network, IP range. So network IP, range. So it is identification of, subnet, right? And third one, which it is network ID. Once again, identification of server. And fourth one, which it is nothing but subnet mask. Identification of network. You can see here. So when I'm trying to build, these 4 IDs are very important. 4 IDs are very important. You can see when I'm trying to build the data center. So if I'm going to create a VPC, instead of VPC, I'm just going to create multiple subnet, right? And instead of the subnet, I can deploy a server. All the servers should be part of one network. So that is what it is representing. You can see that if I'm going to create the data center, first I need to create, first I need to create network ID for your VPC, then network IP range for your subnet, and network IP for your server, and all the servers has to be part of one network. That is, the 4 IDs, it is quite important. So here you can see, I'm just going to change this. It's IP. It's IP. All right. So now you can see that. Come back to your IP section. So first one, which it is network ID, identification of your VPC. That is what I stated. When you go for, assigning the IP, VPC, and subnet, and server will be there, and all the server has to be part of one network. So now you can see, first one, which it is network ID, and second one, your subnet range, and within the range, we can define 1.1, 1.2, 1.3 till 1.5. That is IP of your server, and all the server should be part of /24 network. That is subnet mask. Make sense? Are you getting the point?
Yes, Karthik.
Yes, Karthik.
Great. So so that IP section I have divided, but what is the use case of this /24 and /28? So this is defining number of IP which it's going to be available in the zone. Let's say if I go with IPv4, the total bit size is 32. Out of 32, if I do have 24, so you will get the value which it is 8. So 2 power 8, you will get a value, which it is 256 minus 2. So you will get 254. Minus 2 in the sense network ID and broadcast ID. So if I selected 24 in the sense, my IP range will be 254. You can choose /28. You can choose /28. So what would be the range? So 32 minus 28, you will get 4. So 2 power 4 equal to 16, right? Minus 2. So we'll get 14. So let you consider, I need a 100 mission, right? So we need 100 mission. We need 100 mission. So can I choose 28? Is it sufficient?
No.
No. So I can go with the /24, right?
Yes.
Yes.
So that is defining the range. Fine. So anyhow, network team will be there, but even though, you should understand, based on a requirement, let's say my stakeholder, if they're asking 200 server want to spin up on top of one zone, I should know the range. Without knowing the range, if you have selected a 28, then you cannot able to do any changes over here after created. So that's the reason. Make sure the IP range, it's quite important. All right. Fine. So for practice purpose, let me share this cheat sheet over the Google Drive. You can choose any IP sections over here. So let us try to build data center. I'm just going to upload this IP section. Let's see. Let's kickstart our practical session. So I'm just going to upload your IP sections over here. Let me upload over here. Fine. So it is there. Okay. So let's try to build a data center at the Singapore region. I hope everyone having the account. I'm just going to switching into, VPC. So go to services, right? And here we do have the option, which it is VPC. So, I selected the Singapore region. So you can see the VPC dashboard. So I'm just going to create a VPC. VPC already stated it is identification. I can create one VPC for IBM. Then instead of your VPC, IBM can create a database attached with their VPC. I can create storage attached with your VPC. So it's a centralized box. What are the components which we are going to create in future? You can add with your VPC. So when I'm getting the billing, I can go and see the VPC, how many components they have consumed. I can track easily, and you can pay end of the month. So VPC, it is identification of your cloud. It's not your data center, it's identification. Right. So let's try to create VPC. Already stated 6 VPC you can able to create. Now you can see the default VPC which it is created by Cloud Seller. If you need, you can keep it, or else you can delete from the console. So let's try to create the VPC. I'm just going to creating the VPC here. So when you are trying to give the naming conversion of any components in the cloud platform, there is the generic syntax. So what would be the generic syntax? Let's say if I want to give that naming conversion, the naming conversion, it has the syntax. Widely you can see this syntax, naming conversion syntax over here. So first we need to choose your customer name. Customer name will be there, and next your could you please go for mute? Deepika, could you please go for mute? Yeah, fine. So first one is customer name, and then your service name. Sorry, environment name, and your application name, app name, and your service name. Then number of service. It is your generic syntax. Naming conversion is pretty much important to filter. If you do have multiple customer, so using by this naming conversion, we could able to filter. It's a generic, naming conversion which we are following. Let's say if IBM want to create the data center, I can give customer name, which it is IBM, and environment name, I can say which it is for dev environment. And what's your application name? I can say it's a Flipkart application. What's your service name? I'm just going to create VPC. Number of VPC, it is 1. Make sense? So if you go for Infosys, I can say Infi, customer name they are creating for QA environment, and their application is Paytm, and they are using VPC, and it's 1. So now you can filter. You can see this application. This data center belongs to IBM, and they are using for dev environment. Make sense? So let you insert this naming conversion in your real time as well. So naming conversion is quite important while preparing that inventory data sheet or any documents. If you want to prepare, basically using by this naming conversion, we could able to filter. So then CIDR, when I say CIDR, classless inter-domain routing, already we have discussed. So instead of IP, we can call it as CIDR. So let's try to pass some CIDR, which I do have in IP section. So I'm just going to choose method 2 in IP section. So I can choose, method 2, which it is nothing but 10.0.0.0/26. I mean, 14 IPs would be fine. So that's the reason, I'm just choosing class A using 28. Fine. So let's try to add the parameter, IP section 10.0.0.0/26. I'm just adding the CIDR, and see, we are using IPv4, so there is no IPv6. You just go with the no IPv6 tenancy. It should be default. If I'm using IPv4, you can use default. IPv6, you can choose dedicate. So let's choose IPv4. I mean the default. So this is your tag naming conversion. Let's try to create VPC. I just created the VPC. So once created the VPC, IDs are very important. For each components, it's going to be providing ID. If you want to write it down JSON or YAML script, or if you are facing any issue when you are writing the ticket to the cloud support team. So during the time, I don't want to use my keyword of your naming conversion. We have to specify your IDs. So using by that ID, they could able to support for us. So basically we are having 5 types of IDs in AWS, right? So one which it is service ID, we can call it as. So when I say service ID, which it is nothing but identification of not VPC, it's a network. So what are the network components which we are creating? It's going to be providing service ID and ARN, which means Amazon Resource namespace. So it is nothing but identification of your storage and notification platform, right? And endpoints and points. So it is going to be identification of your database platform. All right, and your KMS, I mean key management service, identification of encryption platform, right? So these IDs are very important, you know, when we are creating any components, when we are creating any components. So this ID is quite important. And if you are facing any ticket, I should mention those IDs. So you can see the IDs. Globally, it should be unique. It will be unique. So now I just created the VPC. Instead of VPC, I can create, subnet. You can come back here. We just created VPC over here. So your VPC, which it is nothing but this. Make sense? So next, let us create a subnet. I'm just going to creating the subnet. While creating the subnet, it is asking this subnet, do you want to attach with which VPC? So that is what I stated. When you are mentioning VPC, it is identification of your cloud. So I can attach the subnet to your VPC. Make sense? Now you can come down. So I can give the naming conversion. What would be the naming conversion here? So IBM, Dave, Flipkart, can I change the service name, which it is instead of VPC, can I give subnet? Getting the point,
Okay.
right? So based on the service name, you can keep on change your naming conversions over here. And this subnet house, we are going to create any one of this zone. I can choose 1A, and here I can choose your IP section 10.0.0.0/28 I'm using. If I do small mistake, it will throw the error. So CIDR, it's a protocol. It will deny if you do small mistake. So I'm using 28. I'm using 28. You can see I'm just going to create one subnet over here. So it is mandatory when we are creating the data center, minimum we should create 2 subnet. One subnet is not sufficient to achieve the high availability. One subnet, if it is down, other subnet, it will be available. So that's the reason when we are creating the data center to be ensured, it should be 2. So let's try to create one more subnet under your VPC. I'm just going to create it. So let's say it is 2, and I'm just going to create the subnet, which it is 2. In AWS, you can use colon. In Azure, you can use, hyphen. So in Azure, they will never, allow this colon. In AWS, they are not allowing, hyphen. So that's slight differ when we were using Terraform or CloudFormation. So during that time, you may face the problem. So make sure when you're using the special character in AWS, try to mention colon. So this data center can be deployed on some other zone. Already we have selected 1A. So let's try to deploy 1B. All right. And let's try to choose your CIDR 10.0.0.16/28. Why it is coming 16? You can see. You can see why it is coming 16. Any idea about that?
different zone. Is that the reason?
That is your range. You can see here. If I'm selecting 28, you will get the value which it is 16. So 0 to 15, we can call 16, right? So for zone 1, they have reserved 0 to 15 for zone 1. For zone 2, 16 to 31, right?
Yes.
So 16 is your range. And zone 3, what would be the value? Anybody?
32 to
32 to
32 to 47? 16 you can count. 31 to
yes,
47,
right. So zone 4 will be
47, 48,
okay to
42,
50,
50, 52,
63.
63.
63.
Yeah, that's correct. That's correct. That's all right. So that's the reason I have selected, 16. You can come back here. So I have selected, 16. So let's try to create one more subnet. So right now we just created 2 subnet over here. All right.
Karthik, how many subnets maximum can we create in one cloud?
Depends on our IP. Depends on our IP range. You can create, 15, 20. But right now, what we are discussing, right? It is basic fundamental. Probably from day after tomorrow onwards, I'm going to take some real-time project. So
Okay.
there we can reserve, okay, I need this subnet for load balancer, this subnet for sub database, this subnet for web layer, this subnet for application layer, this subnet for microservices layer. We can segregate. At this point, by default, we are understanding how to build data center.
Like you told, for one data center, maximum 6 VPCs we can create. So is there a limit to subnet also in one VPC?
No, depends on our IP range. You can create 100 subnet. It is up to you how you are defining your IP range.
Okay.
So now you see, if I selected 20, it means, so we have discussed, right, 256 divided by 16, you will get value. So that much of subnet you can able to create.
Okay. Yes, got it.
Right. All right. So we just created subnet. Next, let us try to create route table. Under the route table, subnet association will be there. You just come back here. We do have the route table. So let's try to create the route table. What is your naming convention over here? So can I mention RT? I mean RT for
Yes.
route table. So this route table, let us try to attach with your data center, and I can give the naming conversion tag name. I'm just giving, which it is RT. I'm just giving RT. So let's try to create some, route table. So I mean, route table, it's nothing but router. Under this route table, we do have subnet association. Under this route table, we do have subnet association. So let me choose that subnet association, which we have created 2. I'm going to choose 2 subnet. Let me see. So now you can see this route table is going to do the routing into 2 subnets. Right? So next, we need to create internet gateway. See, internet gateway is nothing but public API. Okay, we don't want to assign any IP. It is public API. So this is by default. They have given these components to integrate with our data center. I'm just going to create internet gateway. So let's try to create which it is naming conversion. I would say which it is IGW. Right, IGW. Let's try to give this parameter value and create the gateway. And this gateway is detached. I need to attach with your VPC. Let's try to attach with your VPC. All right. So once if you attached, now you can see the gateway is attached to the VPC. So all the traffic, via internet gateway, it's going to pass. I'm right or wrong? See, we are sitting at Bangalore. We want to access Singapore virtual machine. If I want to access this virtual machine, we are accessing via public traffic, right?
Yes.
So we just created the internet gateway attached with your VPC. But VPC is not going to do the routing. Your route table is going to do the routing, right? So this internet gateway we need to attach with your route table. Am I right or wrong?
Right.
Right. So we need to attach with the route table. So in this route table, I need to create the rule. What is your rule in the sense? You can see. So this is your data center. Now it is your route table. Under this route table, I need to create the rule. If anybody pinging via internet gateway, anybody in the sense 0.0. When I say 0.0, which it is representing 0 to 255, any public IP, not private IP, any public IP 0 to 255, if I'm getting the traffic via internet gateway, do the routing into my local network. So I need to create the rule under this route table. If any public traffic, if I'm getting via internet gateway, please do the routing into my local network. Make sense?
Yes, Karthik. Karthik, when you say role, so it means whitelisting or it's a completely different one?
When I say rule,
When you say
rule,
role,
rule, yeah.
so it's mean like whitelisting of the IPs, whitelist of the IPs, or
No, we are not whitelisting. We are whitelisting all the public traffic. 0.0.0.0, which it is representing default IP of your public IP between 0 to 255.
okay, got it.
Right? So let you come back here. So I can go back to route table. I'm just going to creating the rule. Let's say create the rule. See, this is your local network. I'm creating the rule 0.0.0 via internet gateway, which we created. So now you can see the traffic, public traffic will goes to internet gateway. The internet gateway having any public IP will do the routing into our local network. Our local network is 10. Series. All the virtual machine will be in 10. Series. So it's going to be do the routing. We could able to access your target server. Make sense? So I'm just going to save the rule to do the routing. So as per this picture, you can see all the components we have created, exclude DNS. Let us try to enable the DNS. You can go back to your VPC and choose your VPC. Go to action and edit DNS host name. You just enable the DNS. DNS will be enabled. So these are the components, I mean, the dependency components to build your data center. So let me pass over here. If you do have any questions, let me, address those questions. So then let us move forward. So it's over to you guys. So who want to ask a question, you can.
Karthik Rupin here.
Yes.
When we're creating what was tenancy, the default or dedicated detached or what was dedicated? There's a tenancy when we're creating the subnets, I think.
No, I'm not getting. Could you please repeat?
The tenancy.
Oh, tenancy, which it is nothing but okay. You are talking about this one, right?
Yeah.
IPv6 does not have free private IP, right? IPv6. I'm talking about IPv6.
Yeah, I just want to know what is the just the difference between default and dedicated.
Correct. So when I'm choosing default, I mean when I'm choosing IPv4 does private IP, that is free IP. So
Okay.
I can go with the default, any free IP I can choose. But when I'm choosing IPv6, I need to reserve IP. I don't have free IPs over there. I need to buy and dedicatedly assign for my data center.
Okay.
Getting the point?
Yeah.
So that's a major difference.
Okay. And one more question is, how many subnets can we connect to a single subnet association? Is there a
Multiple.
limit on this?
No, there is no limit. You can add multiple subnets.
Okay.
Yeah.
Topic.
Yes.
Is there any limitation on the character length in the name convention?
No. No. You mean naming convention, right, Sankar?
Yes.
No, there is no limitation. So, but widely we are using this syntax, Shankar. So I have seen 2-3 organizations, they are using, the same syntax, the customer name, environment name. So there is no, limited variables to insert out here.
Yeah, for that only. Like, when we create a subnet and other route table, why can't we have this VPC information and subnet information also in that naming convention?
Right. I am just following. See, based on that service name, I changed your naming convention. You can see for subnet, I have given sub. For route table, I have given route.
No, what I'm saying, like if you add VPC one also in subnet information, so it will be easy to identify where it is connected, right? Associated.
Yeah, see, I can able to create a rule under this route table for if you do have 10 subnet, I need to create 10 rules over here. Do the routing to this subnet, do the routing to that subnet. Instead of we are connecting into single endpoints, which it is called subnet association. This is what your question, right, Shankar?
My question, can you go to that subnet name, subnet one name?
Subnet name?
Yeah, before subnet, can you add VPC information?
Oh, okay. So here you are talking about
VPC one.
VPC one, not required, I think so, because see here. So here, see, how will it be looks like in the sense, right now I did not insert this subnet, it is for web layer, like this will be there.
Okay.
Okay, and this subnet, which it is belongs to TB layer. So then we could understand anyhow, you can understand, okay, this VPC belongs to IBM, right?
Yeah.
So when you are defining that, web layer, application layer, then you can add. So that's I did not add at this point in time.
Okay, because you said that we can create maximum to 6 VPCs, right?
6 VPC in your region, yes.
So I didn't make it clear. Just thinking that one.
Yeah. So maximum, the Cloudflare, they are allowing us to deploy 6 data center in your region. So if you need more, then you can go with a different region. Any questions? Yeah. Yes, go ahead. Somashekar. I cannot able to hear you. Anybody, are you able to hear him? Hello, is it only for me or for others?
Karthik, can you hear now?
Yeah, we can.
Can you go back to the route table rule which you created?
Okay.
Here,
Mhm.
according to the architecture,
Mhm.
you're trying to communicate from a public IP to with a private IP, isn't it?
Yes. See
Yeah,
here.
yeah, I got it. But when you give the destination as 0.0.0, is it required? I mean, so I can communicate to any IP, whichever IP it is required. I mean to say I don't have to restrict myself to particular IP range. Do I have to do that every time?
You can do that. See here. Okay, so let's take it as an example. What is my IP? So if I want to whitelist my IP, you can whitelist over here. So I can go and say whitelist last 32. So you can save this. So only my IP traffic only it's going to allow. Got it?
Got it. I meant to say, particularly you're trying to, communicate only with this IP alone, correct? Only this IP should be allowed to communicate with the destination, right?
Okay, you are talking about within the data center, right?
Within the data center.
You can't. That option it is not available in AWS, but in Azure we can. In Azure we can. In AWS, I will tell you, we do have dedicated components that is NATing. So I understand your question. So you cannot able to do for your question. It is not possible in AWS. So what you are trying to say, so let's say I do have server 10.0.0.10. So whoever want to access, I want to allow them to access only 10.0.0.10, correct?
Yes.
You can't. So how can we whitelist in the sense we do have firewall? I will take you a bit later. In the firewall, we can whitelist.
All right.
All right. I think so. Your network is not good from your end. Check with your network.
Yeah, sure.
Fine. So others, do you have any questions? Anybody?
Karthik, Kumaran here. I just have a doubt. Like, from one root user, can I create multiple VPCs?
From one?
From one root user. I mean, I have created my own ID, right? So from my ID, can I create multiple VPC?
6.
No, not specific to any particular region. I mean, from using
Multiple
my root.
region.
Yeah, yes. Can I select multiple regions and multiple regions and I can create multiple VPCs as well from my ID?
You can create. Yeah. See, VPC, it is not paid service. Not an issue. You can create many VPC, no problem.
Okay. So once created, we will be also able to delete it as well, right?
You can delete. So you can go back and choose your VPC, action and delete.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
All right. And all the steps which it is available, you can go to here. Okay, I need to upload the documents. It is labs steps. Okay, so here we'll upload all the steps. See, what are the steps which I followed to create the VPC, right? It is available over here. You can see. So you can follow the steps. So let me upload all the steps over the drive. You can open, you can see what are the steps which I selected. So I have prepared SOP documents over here. Step 1, create the VPC. And step 2, what you have to enable. And step 3, I just prepared SOP documents. So you can follow these docs for your hands-on perspective. I just uploaded over the drive itself. You guys just look into that.
Okay. Karthik, one last thing. So we created this architecture. So how do I know it's working?
Yeah, that's what I'm going to do that. See, I just created the data center. So tomorrow, let us deploy some application. We'll spin up some server. Let's try to deploy some application. So whoever want to ping that application, those traffic the data center has to allow. We'll do it. We'll do it on tomorrow.
Okay.
Yeah. So today and tomorrow, let us try to understand the basic fundamental. From Friday onwards, let us try to understand that, real-time project. When I say real-time project, it's a kind of real-time project, not the organization project. I just prepared myself, what are the components, how can we calculate, what are the dependency do we require to deploy this application. Let's try to understand. All right. So, yeah, is there any more question?
Hi, Karthik.
Yes.
Just now we have created the IPs for access. So do you have, if I want to access with that particular server, means we need to do DNS names, or
I'm not getting your point.
we have created that IP, right? And, for accessing the VPC.
Correct.
So for accessing the VPP, we have to use some URL, right?
No. This VPC is network, Vivek. We cannot able to access VPC. VPC it's network. So now let us deploy the virtual machine. For that virtual machine, we do have URL. For that virtual machine, we do have that IP. So we cannot able to access your VPC.
Okay.
Right. Fine then. So is there any more question? All right then. We'll meet up on tomorrow on same time. Okay. So we'll wind up today. Thank you all. Bye bye. Have a nice day.
Thank you, Karthik.